Okay, shoot 50. Let's go.
Alright! What was it like when you went to big family gatherings as a child? Where would they be held? Who would attend? And how did everyone act?
Well, they were great. It was great. All the family lived close. We'd have like 50 people at a family gathering at somebody's house. Mostly my aunt would do them at her house. My grandmother would be there. And all of us children would play together. And we used to play crazy games. It was before television. We'd play on bunk beds and make believe we were sailing off into the wild, or we'd make believe we were driving cars and our cars went into the water, and we just had a lot of fun as a family. It was really nice to have such a family closeness that I enjoyed.
Alright, next question, if I can get the paper. Alright. How many places did you live while you were growing up? Where were they? And which one did you consider your hometown?
Okay, I lived in New York City in the Bronx in an apartment building. It was a big building. There were 60 families that lived in the building. We lived on the second floor. Then we moved to New Jersey and bought a small Cape Cod house. And I lived there with my parents till I got married. So that's the one I consider my home. And I've driven past it in the last couple of years. It's still there. I still remember it with fond memories.
Alright. How is your hometown like?
What was my hometown like? It was small. Everybody kind of knew each other. Most of the children that we went to school with, and we all knew each other. We'd walk for miles and go play. And when it was snowing, we'd go sleigh riding down the hill in our sleigh, and the cars weren't allowed couldn't ride on the roads. It was just great on the sleighs, but we walked around a lot. We'd take 5 cents and go to the candy store and buy candy or soda, and it was just a lot of fun being with a lot of kids, depending on your ages, how far you went from home.
Alright, next question, I have to get the paper, is, what do you remember about your neighborhood and neighbors?
What do I remember about the neighbors? Oh, they were all nice. I remember my mother used to go out with the women once a week and they played canasta, which was a big card game in those days. And we had 2 neighbors that were sisters who lived next to each other, and they were Rockettes. They used to be Rockettes in Radio City before they were married and had children. We would ride our bikes. Oh, all we did all day was ride bikes and go to other people's houses and play. And we didn't have play dates like you have today. You just got on your bike and drove to somebody's house and knocked on the door and started playing. It was very nice time to be a child.
Alright, did you go to school as a child?
Yes, of course I went.
What schools did you attend for grades K through 12?
K through 12. Well, I went to a grammar school It was called, I forget the name. I can't remember the name of it, but it ended at 6th grade. And then I went to New Milford Junior High School for 7th, 8th, and 9th grade. I graduated from 9th grade. Then when I went to high school, it was only a 3-year high school. That's the way schools were. Then I went to Hackensack High School, and that we used to have to take a bus. And they were public transportations, and they were just ugly brown buses, and we used to call them the Brown Bomber. But before that, when we went to school in New Milford, we walked back and forth to school, uphill both ways.
All right. Did you play any sports teams or belong to any extracurricular clubs?
No, I was really not athletic. I did participate in junior high school in the yearbook. I was on the yearbook committee, and nothing much else. When I was in high school, I worked at a hospital part-time. I was a volunteer at a hospital, Hackensack Hospital. That's about all that I remember doing.
What do you remember about your high school prom?
My high school prom. Well, we had it at a country club. And I remember going with this guy called Mickey Deal. And I had a beautiful pink dress. And it was strapless. And it had lots of layers of what they used to call crinolines. And it was all fancy and out. And I remember dancing and talking and just how beautiful. It was the first time I had ever been to a country club or anything that looked as beautiful as that, or I felt so elegant.
Alright. What was your first full-time job? How old were you when you got it? How did you get it, and how long did it last?
My first full-time job. How old? I was about 22, and I worked as a bookkeeper, secretary type person in an office doing office work. How many years did I work there? About 4 years. It was all kinds of office work. It was a great learning experience.
Good. Alright. Oh wait, no, I don't want to do that one. Hold on, I'm about to turn all these pages. Hold up. This one it. Looking back at your life, of what are you most proud of?
The children I raised and loved. That's, to me, is my greatest accomplishment. I've done a lot of other things, gone to college, worked hard, but my greatest accomplishment is my children, and then of course my grandchildren. That's, in my opinion, the most important thing in life, is the generations and the continuation of a family.
Alright. Next question. Did you have a pet? Is there a story you or your family like to tell about it?
Yes, I had a pet, a dog, I actually had a dog named Freckles and a canary called Blue. And the canary was very funny. We couldn't keep it in its cage. It would get out through the wires. And my father and I had taken for the canary and built a play gym. We had a little carousel on it, and I would put the canary in there, and it would hop around and play around. And when it would get out of its cage, it would dive bomb the dog, and the poor dog would just look up at it like, "What are you doing to me?" And whenever my father would come home from work in the afternoon, and he would have a beer before he had dinner, and he would pour himself a beer every time that bird saw the beer come out. He got out of the cage, no matter what we did, and he had to drink some beer. And one time my father they would drink the beer out of a tall glass, but there was only a little bit of beer left in the bottom of the glass, and the bird bent down and almost drowned in the beer. We had to pull him out by his tail before he drowned in my father's beer. So that was the story of my bird. And I have another story about my dog, if you'd like to hear it, that I think was funny. Freckles was a very, very good dog, and well-behaved and well-trained. He got the name Freckles because he was white with black spots, of course. But we had a friend that used to come visit from New York City. She'd come like twice a year to visit my mother. She was a friend from the apartment house in New York. And every time she would come, Freckles would go over and lift his leg on her. He never did it to anyone else except Seal. But she'd have stockings on and shoes, and he'd go over and lift his leg on her. It was quite funny to laugh at. You have to laugh at a lot of things in life, because otherwise life can be pretty rough. Anything else?
No, we are done here. And goodbye.